Hi, my name is Sean Johnson. In this short presentation, I will be showing you a unique pathway to relocating to Canada without having to worry about IELTS. Before I go ahead, let me ask, do you fall into any of the following category? Number 1, IELTS is stopping you from getting the required CRS score for your Canada relocation. 2, your age is stopping you from getting the required CRS score for your Canada relocation. Are you too young or too old? 3, your lack of work experience or the insufficiency of it is stopping you from getting the required CRS for your Canada relocation. 4, your educational qualification is not enough to get the required CRS for your Canada relocation. 5, you are not able to get the required points for provincial nomination for any reason. Then you should pay attention to this presentation and listen to the very end. Now, who am I? My name, like I said earlier, is Sean Johnson, and I'm a consultant specialized in educating people about travels. I have over 13,000 people who read my newsletters on travel. My Facebook page is called Travel and Tour. You can check it out and like it. Sometimes ago, my cousin Tunde relocated to Canada without writing IELTS. Really, that wasn't a big deal, but in recent times, it has become one. Why did I say that? It is because of the way the organizers of the IELTS exams are treating Nigerians. Once they know you require IELTS either for study or immigration, they find a way to score you low, so you can keep coming back and they can keep making more money. So I contacted my cousin, a permanent resident of Canada, who relocated to Canada without IELTS and has helped many people, myself and family included. And we had a lengthy discussion about how we can enlighten Nigerians who fall into the category I listed above but have a desire to relocate themselves and their entire family to Canada without falling into the hands of fraudsters who disguise as agents. And that is what brought about this video presentation. Now, a few points I must raise before I introduce you to this unique pathway to Canada. We all know that the most popular way to locate ourselves and entire families to Canada is through the Federal Express Entry System and the provincial nominee programs. Now, let's assume that you got the required CRS point and was able to relocate successfully to Canada. On your arrival, you will face two serious challenges. Number 1, Canadian experience. Most employers in Canada would rather you have some form of Canadian experience before they can entrust you with any form of responsibility in their organization. No matter how highly placed you were in your home country, it doesn't count with them. You can visit Quora or other online forums to know more about people's experience. Number 2, Canadian education. While you try to seek for a job to gain the so-called Canadian experience, it becomes expedient for you to enroll in a college or university, as the case may be, to be qualified to work in your primary profession. Or if you decide on a career change due to how relevant and lucrative your career is in the environment you find yourself. So in summary, even if you're located through the Federal Express Entry or the Provincial Nomination Program, you have to work and study to integrate yourself properly into the Canadian economy. And trust me, it is challenging, but ultimately, it is worth it. Having said that, my unique pathway of relocating to Canada covers all the categories I mentioned before. That includes anything or everything that stops you from getting the required CRS score for immigrating to Canada, while also taking care of the two challenges I mentioned earlier that all immigrants face when they arrive in Canada. Ironically, this pathway has the highest admission rate to Canada because it removes all the bottlenecks of both the Federal Express Entry and the Provincial Nomination Programs. It is called the Study Pathway to Relocating to Canada. Take a look at this chart below. If you look at the blue arc here, that's for the Express Entry. About 85,800 people relocated to Canada through the Express Entry system in the year 2018. If you look at this orange arc here, that's for the Provincial Nomination Program. 67,800 relocated to Canada through Provincial Nomination Programs. And these are the Labor Market Impact Assessment, those that are relocated via job transfers. Their company transferred them from Nigeria to their branches in Canada. But if you look at this one, this is the study path relocation to Canada. Over 356,545, more than 4 times those that relocated through the Express Entry, and more than 6 times those are located through the Provincial Nomination Program. So, and this figure is based on 2018 admissions into Canada. According to the 2018 immigration data, the number of people who migrated to Canada through the study approach are 4 times those who went directly through the popular streams of the Federal Express Entry and the Provincial Nomination Program. In fact, it is the easiest way to migrate your entire family to Canada. Why? It is not age dependent. Whether you are 50 years old or 18 years old, you qualify to apply. The study can be either professional, academic, or vocational, but there are specific institutions to apply to. Some institutions are for those with second class upper and above. Some institutions are for those with second class, lower, third class, or pass. Nobody's left out, not even those without any form of higher degrees. As long as you have a secondary school certificate, you qualify. Isn't that just great? When you are given admission to these specially selected institutions, your spouse, if you have one, is given an open work permit. An open work permit allows the recipients to work anywhere and for any employer in Canada. Meanwhile, you can also work while studying in these specially selected institutions. Then your children also, if you have, will be enrolled in high-quality Canadian schools for free from kindergarten to high school. And most people make this move to give their children that better opportunity. After your study in the specially selected institution, you will have access to up to 3 years open work permits, during which you can make your transition to permanent residency by taking advantage of all the available opportunity the Canadian government offers people who follow this pathway. Now you have the following. Number 1, the Canadian experience. You and your spouse have the Canadian experience you need for higher CRS points and integration into the Canadian economy. Remember, you just solved the Canadian experience challenge. Number 2, Canadian education. You now have the required education to work in your desired profession with your previous international experience, your Canadian experience, and your Canadian education. You will be hard to beat. Also, more points in your CRS. 3, you also can have a job offer which also gives you more CRS points. You are living legally in Canada, and that's called Canadian connectivity needed for provincial nomination. In summary, the study approach offers you everything without leaving anything out, including integrating you into the Canadian economy. No wonder it is the most used pathway to migrate to Canada. So really, the end goal is key, becoming a permanent resident of Canada. The course of study doesn't really matter. What matters is the end goal. Although it will be wise to enroll in a course that helps you practice your desired profession in Canada, be it academic, professional, or vocational. Let's look at how Dan used this pathway to relocate his entire family to Canada. Real name is not used for confidentiality's sake. Dan realizes that due to his peculiar circumstance, he is not able to meet up to the CRS score of 470, which is the current threshold of immigrating to Canada through the Federal Express entry, since this score has remained around this point for some months now. Age is not also on his side. He will be 42 years old on his next birthday, so he decided to check the provincial nomination since that is more relaxed. He checks and sees that the ones available demands that he has a Canadian connection, a family relative in Canada. Of course, Dan has no known relative in Canada. His hope is dashed. Then Dan, now 42 years old, bought the Relocate to Canada without IELTS guide. More about this guide later. So he applies to do a postgraduate program in one of the schools in the guide, even though he already has a master's degree. But Dan has the end goal in his mind, to become a permanent resident of Canada. Dan also knows that if he lived in Canada legally, he would easily scale through both the Federal Express entry and the provincial nomination. So Dan does not give up. He just wants to give his children that better opportunity. Dan secured the admission, which also came with a scholarship. His wife got the open work permit, and off Dan went with his wife and 2 children. Meanwhile, Madam was already pregnant with baby number 3. The family got to Canada. Madam got a customer service job with a small firm, and Dan, while studying, does some part-time job at a bank close to his school. The children were enrolled in one of Canada's high-quality schools free of charge. Dan has just fulfilled part of his dream, better quality of education for his kids. 24 months down the line, Dan was done with his program, so he applied for a work permit as instructed in the guide. He got a job. Now, getting a job was easy because he now has Canadian work experience and the Canadian certificate. And he retook his IELTS exam alongside his wife, but this time around things were different. The very things that was hindering him from attending the CRS cutoff have now naturally become part of him. Number 1, he didn't need a high IELTS score. 2, he did not need proof of funds because he and his wife had a job and were already legally living in Canada. Number 3, he has had a Canadian education. Number 4, he and his wife now have Canadian work experience. Since there are many programs the Canadian government has put in place to make people like Dan and his family transition to permanent resident, Dan could simply take advantage of those programs like the Canadian Experience Class, the Atlantic Pilot Program, and lots more. Nevertheless, Dan didn't have to go through any stress because with his new circumstance, he easily scaled through the current 468 CRS cutoff and is now a permanent resident of Canada. Today, he enjoys all the benefits of being a permanent resident with his family, and he and his family is not working on obtaining their Canadian passport. Now, that's a good story. I know I have well informed you about this unique pathway, but trust me, you need someone to guide you so you don't make mistakes that can cost you the whole process. Also, getting an agent who might not even be genuine can be nail-biting. That is why I encourage you to have a guide that breaks down the process for you. Now, let me use this opportunity to introduce you to the same guide that Dan used that helped him go through the study approach method of relocating to Canada without IELTS. The guide is titled How to Relocate to Canada Without IELTS. The guide takes you through the step-by-step process of the study pathway to Canada. What you get in this guide. Number one, the schools you are to apply to in Canada. In Canada, there are designated learning institutes you should apply to, also known as DLI, whose international students are eligible for an open work permit after studies. These schools readily accept Nigerian applicants irrespective of their age. These schools also offer full funding scholarship for Nigerian applicants with second class upper and above. 2. Schools to apply to if you have second class lower, third class or pass. You are eligible even if you don't have any form of higher education, as long as you have C6 in 5 subjects in WAEC or NECO. These schools readily accept Nigerian applicants irrespective of their age. Number 3. How to bypass IELTS academic or TOEFL. Schools in Canada demand proof of English proficiency, and this comes in form of IELTS academic, which is even more technical than the IELTS general required for immigration. Or also, you can also use TOEFL. But in the guide, you will see how to bypass this IELTS or any entrance exam whatsoever that is required to prove your English proficiency. Number 4, you will learn how to successfully apply to these schools. There is what is required for you to make your application successful. You will get it in the guide. Number 5, how to get the available scholarship. Number 6, how to successfully get a study permit through a unique process. Number 7, how to get an open work permit for your spouse if you have one. Number 8, how to successfully get your whole family to relocate with you. Number 9, how to transition to permanent residency in Canada. Number 10, how to begin and finish your whole application process online. In summary, the guide will take you through every step and documentation you require to start the process till you land in Canada. You will also have access to a special email where you can get clarity about the way out if you get stuck. If you are to go to an agency to help you with the things available in this guide, you will need around 1 million to 1.5 million, but you won't need anything close to that amount of money for the guide. Our main goal here is to help Nigerians with this information, but of course, it costs us money to make them aware of this information, and also other logistics we have to engage to make this a reality and help Nigerians reach their goal. That is why we are making the guide available for a token of 25,000 naira. But this price is only available for the next 72 hours. After 72 hours, the price will go up to 50,000 naira, which we believe is a fair price for the value this guide delivers. But till the timer below counts down to 0, you can still get it at the 50% discount of 25,000 naira. I believe the information you have received in this presentation has rekindled the hope that your relocation to Canada is still a reality, regardless of your present circumstance, IELTS or no IELTS. Old or young, SSCE or PhD, this guide has brought you a reality you thought not possible. To make that hope a reality, get to work immediately. Start by getting the guide at the discounted price of 25,000 naira. So go ahead now and click the button below to get the guide now. I wish you all the best and thanks for listening.